I will absolutely be a fan of bass holes now.
All right, Chris, how we doing, man? That was a few technical difficulties there, uncharacteristic, but hey, we're back.
We're here. Yeah, I don't. That was weird. We've never had that happen, but we'll just jump right into it.
Yeah, might as well.
So it's been a tumultuous week for
What
the
is that?
week
Can
and
we
a
get a
half for the
definition of
Timberwolves.
that, please?
Tumultuous. I think like almost disastrous, wild, a little crazy. Um, I where to start? I guess we'll just start with the Jazz game. I know you didn't get a chance to watch a ton of it, but that was the not proud to say the first Timberwolves game this season I've actually had to turn off mid game.
It was
And
pretty good though at halftime. Though I watched the first half, and at mid we went on a little run. I think we almost tied the game. We took the lead there at half. What caused you to turn the game off? There's usually that one moment that you can go back to where you turn the game off. What was it?
So yeah, I was proud of the team because we did go down 10 early in the first half, and we had a 10-point run in like a minute and a half. So we were down by one at half to the Jazz, and I was really proud of the team actually. For some context here, I wouldn't have been mad if we lost to the Jazz. I really was expecting us to lose to the Jazz. It was kind of just
Hey, come on now.
it was kind of just without DLO, the matter we lost to the Jazz in the second half, and kind of I guess the point in time that made me turn the TV off was the really dumb shot selection and lackluster defense. I think in the third quarter, that was one of the worst third quarters. I think it might have been the worst third quarter I've watched the Timberwolves play this year. And if you know the Timberwolves, we really struggle in the third quarter. So to say that was one of the worst I watched is a very powerful statement. Kind of just a few things to highlight from the game. There wasn't a lot of bright spots in the game, but I will say I thought Patrick Beverley coming back from the leg injury, putting up like I think 8 really quick points in the first, and I think he ended with like 18 or something like that. I thought Pat Bev had a great game. I also thought Ant had a good game for what it was worth. I thought it was a really, really strong first half from Ant, and I think the third quarter, obviously, no one played well, and he was sat most of the fourth quarter. They had a lot of the backups in, so obviously I think Ant could have had a better game but I thought him and Pat Bev did enough for this team to stay in the game. And there's a lot of bad this game, and I first want to start out with the leader of the team, because I think that's where you always got to start out when you're dissecting a loss. And I think Karl Anthony Towns did not do enough, especially in the first half. The first half when the rest of the team was playing amazing, it looked like Cat was almost tentative out there to a point. It looked like he was a little nervous with Gobert in the paint. And
Yeah.
it really showed, man. He barely took any shots in the first half.
Well,
Or
I
go
hate to
ahead.
interrupt you, Chris, but the thing about that is Chris Finch was making statements before the game that he wanted Karl Anthony Towns to shoot 15 to 23s that game. He gave him basically the biggest green light I've ever seen an NBA coach give a player, and for him not to shoot, it just seemed like, what else you got to do to shoot more? You know what I'm saying?
It-
Like, how
it
much
re-
more of a push do you need than your coach coming out and saying he wants you to shoot 15 to 23s in a game?
Yeah, there's also post game comments of like
Anthony Edwards had a huge
Ant having to talk to Karl Anthony Towns and literally tell him like, stop playing afraid of Gobert. Like it doesn't matter if you get blocked, you just got to shoot, man. Like we're not gonna win if Karl Anthony Towns doesn't shoot the ball. I don't care who we're playing. We could
There
be
was a
playing
there
them.
was a lot of statements about Gobert. I feel like Pat Bev had a lot of funny ones. He really takes it personally that Gobert's the defensive player of the year. Did you see that one where he was talking about how the defensive player of the year is not guarding the best player on the other team? But
He's guarding Vando. I thought that was kind of funny.
yeah, but it worked though. That's the thing. Like that, it really
It's
worked
just
amazingly.
they played Cat like a lot of teams play Cat. They double him right off the post. And Cat Ant said this in the post game interview too. He said Cat, you got to make a quick move. Like you got to do something with it right when you catch it, because once they come double team you, they're going to be playing up tight in my face. I'm not going to be able to get the ball, and you're going to have to make a pass, which you haven't been able to do for some reason. And I think
What do you-
that's
What do you think about Ant making those comments publicly instead of just going out and telling Kat that in private? Do you think that's the right way to go about it?
I don't really mind it, honestly. I think they each, like, I think Carl in the past has told the press like stuff that Ant needs to do and what DLO like I don't really have an issue with those three addressing the press and using themselves in there. I don't know, man. It was just, Carl the past 6 games has been super impressive. I thought he's averaged 30, 10, and 5, I think, in the last 5 games. And for him to go out there and just shit the bed like that, I thought was kind of telling on what Carl was like. It was kind of telling the first like minute or two of the game what type of game Carl was going to have, because he's
impact. Like that. You can tell kind of early in the game what kind of game he's going to have. And actually, when you were talking about turning off the Jazz game, I turned off the Hawks game maybe even before halftime, I think, because that game was god awful.
Yeah, we'll finish here with the Jazz.
Of course,
because those two I think are both important to talk about. I guess to cap it off, in the third, I was really on. So we started off with Cat. He was one of the lowlights of the game. He had a decent second half, but even in the second half, I thought this is a story of the game for everyone, but missed layups, man. That's what lost us this game to a very, very big extent. We've missed a lot of points in the paint. We left a lot of points out there that could have been gotten. Would that have won the game with the way we were playing defense? Probably not, but it sure as hell we wouldn't be losing by 32 if we would have got at least some of those layups. I think another thing to touch on too is I'll get into Malik in a little bit here, but Jaden McDaniels, man, I don't know what he was doing in the game, to be honest. I don't have the line in front of me, but it seemed like every single shot he took, he missed. He can't hit a 3-pointer right now, and I think that kind of digs into a deeper subject that I know no Timberwolves fan wants to have, and that is the reality that Jaden McDaniels hasn't had a good year, and it's at least offensively. I know he's decent defensively, but we can find Jaden McDaniels around the league right now that are doing what he's doing at the moment. He's just not that player we're expecting, his sophomore year to be. We need him to be able to hit that 3 at least above 30%, man. It can't be this bad.
Yeah, but again, I think the problem with the whole Jaden McDaniels thing is that we had way too high of expectations for him going into his second year. I mean, he was the 30th pick in the draft, around there, 28th, something there. We had just such high expectations for him. Everyone was saying he was going to be the Scottie Pippen, Anthony Edwards, and that's just not realistic. And I don't know. There is other players that are doing the same thing that we're expecting from Jaden McDaniels, but is it really the best move to move on from him this early in his career when we got him at so late in the draft? What do you think?
No, I by no means think it's time to shoot the sail or shoot the ship on.
But that's the thing. So many Timberwolves fans are acting Jaden McDaniels hasn't lived up to these extremely high expectations that we've set for him this year, so we got to move on from him. It's okay to no. He's still outplayed where we drafted him by a lot, and I don't know. I think that he's a young player. He's coming off of the flu. He lost 10 pounds. He's gonna be all right. He's playing better than we expected him.
Yeah, Let me rephrase.
Yeah, rephrase it. You got it. Because you're sounding like all the other Timberwolves fans.
No. I don't mean to sound like I'm giving up on Jaden McDaniels, because I haven't. Obviously, he's a really raw player, just as Anthony Edwards, just as Balmero is. All 3 of those draft picks from 2021 or 2020 are really raw players, and they're going to take time. What I'm saying is from the Jaden we've seen of the last 2 months of the previous season, it's a little telling to an extent that he's not in the starting lineup. Like we were the bare minimum, I think, for Jaden McDaniels was to solidify himself at that 4 this year and kind of fix that rotating door that we've seemed to have the past few seasons. And it sucks to see, you really want to see Jaden out there, starting at the 4, because I think if he gets that 3-point shot going, I think he is a good 4 for us. I think he is a starting caliber 4 for a lot of teams. And it's just, I hope the shot will come, because, Peyton and I, he's been at 3 games. The one Peyton and I went to, we saw Jaden McDaniels out there an hour before, just all his shots were 3-point shots from different spots on the arc. And I think that's what he should be working on, because he's so open so much of the time, and you just love to see him hit the 3 at at a substantial clip. And I think that's what he really has to hunker down and, get right. Because if he can figure that out, man, he's going to be a really talented player in this league. It's just, we look at it from a dark side, and if he doesn't ever get that offense figured out, then what does Jaden McDaniels give to you? Like a big defender. And like I said, we're not sailing away yet on Jaden McDaniels is horrible. I'm pointing out one of the reasons why this team has experienced some of these losing streaks, and that's a big reason. I mean, Jaden's a top 7 player on this team, and we really do need him. And is that unfair of us to already need him this much? Possibly, but it's the situation he's in.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with what you're saying. I mean, we have to point to why this team is so inconsistent, and it's so hard to be a fan of such an inconsistent team. We can go on. What did we go on? A 6-game win streak, was it? 5-game win streak, 7 of the last 8.
Yeah, it was something like 1-7 the last.
And
8. I know
we were on top of the world. Everyone was so happy, and then we go on a 4-game losing streak, and everyone's back to let's trade away. It's just so I don't know.
Against some brutally tough teams too.
Right.
These are very
right.
Tough
This December schedule, going into it, we knew that this was going to be hard. We're striving for 500. That's kind of what I'm looking to go 500 in this December month. But yeah, it's gonna be a hard month for sure.
Yeah,
I don't know what I was saying.
No, that's all right. Like you were saying. I mean, it's gonna be a tough month. You'd love to see him grab one of these 2 games against the Hawks or the Jazz at home, because home games will be especially important. And to finish up on the Jazz game here, we don't have to take too long at it, but I hate having to bring him up, man. I really do, because he was one of my favorite players last year. He's still I like him. I know he's one of your favorite players, but
for sure.
Malik, come on, man. Like, it's just when he's coming off a pick and open, that's I make or miss. That's a good shot. I'm glad he's taking that shot, man. But the shot selection, I think what happens is when he makes one of those threes, I think he gets really anxious with the ball and is like, give me the ball as fast as possible. I want to get another shot up. I just made one. Like, I'm going to get in my zone.
Because he's trying to
chucks up the dumbest shot. He is an off-ball player, and I think he needs to realize that more. Like, he doesn't realize, I don't think, that he's an off-ball player, and that's where he succeeds, man. Coming off those high screens for a wide-open for a wide-open 3 is great. And the problem comes when Malik Beasley is doing size-up dribble moves on the wing. He's not a good interior player. He's not a great finisher at the cup. I think he's more athletic than he's given credit for, but he does not hit a lot of those pull-up threes, and he's got to realize that and not take those shots. It hurts the team, man. Like, it's such an energy boost when he hits a 3 for you, but it's such a killer when he goes down and takes a dumb shot.
I think he's almost having an identity crisis as a player. I think that he's lost. I mean, he's always been that spot up shooter, 3-point guy. Always just he finds the open spots, gets the open threes, and makes it very consistently. But I think that when he's not making his threes, he doesn't really know how else to find that offense. And like you said, when he makes one, he really looks to find that second one, and then he ends up taking a bad shot, taking away from that 3 he just made before. It almost cancels out on the good play he just made. So I don't know.
I was just about to say that, man.
You can hit a 3, but then if you go down and take a horrible shot, then what's the point of making that 3 earlier? I think he needs to just calm down, let the game come to him. Once he starts making his shots, dude, he's going to start getting his minutes back. I mean, he's one of the best shooters on this team, but right now he's really struggling.
And that's what sucks about Malik, man, is I think he has shown improvement over the past 2 weeks. I think his shot has been dropping at a higher clip than it once had. It's just the bad shot selection is bringing his percentage down to what it was, because he's taking worse shots actually now than he did when he was struggling. And I think you pointed at something that could be a bigger picture of an issue with this team is kind of that Malik mindset. Like, I hit one shot, it's my right to have that ball, and it's my right to create for myself next play. Where I think there's 4 players that do that on the team, and I think it's the big 4. The big 4 scorers. I don't know why when each of them hits one, I don't know why they think it's their right just to get the ball right back. And I get it. If you have a mismatch on you, feed the guy. But it's just so random, and that's why this half-court offense is struggling, is because I hit one shot, I'm going to go down there, and they're going to they're going to defend pretty well, and I'm still going to take that shot when we could have looked for a different shot in that possession.
Because you can still get a shot. Like, just because you're not taking the shot in the first few seconds of the shot clock doesn't mean you're not going to get a shot that whole possession. I think that's kind of the problem. Like, these guys are thinking, like, it's just we're not really playing team basketball, and we haven't really played team basketball up to this point, and that's kind of the problem. They don't trust other players. Like, if Malik Beasley hits one possession and he comes back down the court the next possession, he doesn't trust his team to be able to run a full possession and still get him that shot at some point. He feels like the only way he's going to get a shot is if he goes and gets it for himself, and that's creates just not the best atmosphere to be a part of.
Yeah, and that's why the half court. I think the one word for the half court offense is being bad. I don't think it's that big of an issue. I think Finch is an excellent play caller. I just think players are being selfish. I just don't think I don't think the offense is running it how it's supposed to due to a mindset from some of these players, and it's the half court offense isn't going to get any better until we start playing more team basketball. And I'd much rather see who plays team basketball extremely well and looks for their shot only when it's the right time to. I think there's two players on. That's one of them. There's two players on this team. Nas and Patrick Beverley do it better than anyone I've ever seen. If they know they have a lane to try to go make a floater, they're going to do it. If they're covered on the perimeter and they don't think they can hit that shot, they're going to pass the ball and go screen away. And it's so apparent in Nas Reed, man. He only takes the wide open three. He only shoots the layup if the roll's there, or he only makes a post move if he knows he can beat his guy off the dribble. And look what happens. Nas is one of the most efficient players on this team. And I trust him more than anyone to make a move in the post to try to create for himself down there. Because first of all, super underrated. I think Nas Reed's drop step and post moves are some of the most underrated in the NBA. He seems to get a wide open layup every single
call
time.
him the reincarnation of Hakeem Olajuwon every time. He's got some of the best footwork in the whole league. If I'm going to be honest with you, Chris, it's a work of art.
We need our top tier players to have the mindset of Nas Reed and of Patrick Beverley, and it's frustrating. I think they've taken on I love that we're a better defensive team this year than we were last year, but I am so tired of talking about just defense, man. I want to talk about defense and half-court offense. I'm so tired of all our points coming off turnovers, dude. I just want some points.
I'd rather be a better offensive team than a better defensive team, if I'm going to be honest with you. I'd rather outscore the opponents than – because we should have if we're any other team, I mean, sure, defense is great, but our team, we have so many offensive-minded players. We should be such an offensive-centered team, and we're not. And it goes back to the half-court offense. And do we need to have more set plays because it feels like we don't really run many? Would that help? It might. I feel like that might be something we should look at or at least talk about.
I think the thing is, too, is we talk about this grand defense that's really, a non-sustainable way of playing defense, which is high volume, get in your face defense, like feast off turnovers. That's how they live on defense at the moment. And it's shown against the past two games against really good teams what happens, when our rotations are all off and we're giving up NBA record amounts of threes in two games. And I want to kind of go to the Hawks game just for a little bit here and bring up a name that I hope none of you know. I didn't know his name. Timothy Luwalu-Cabarrot.
I knew him. He's from France.
He did have a good international season. I did see that. But if any of you guys watched the Hawks game, I don't know how annoyed I was when he's
a big 2K player. He's always on my 2K team.
He averages 2 threes a game, I think the announcer said. My God, he was open every single time he touched the ball. And guess what? He's a smart player. If he wasn't open, he'd pass the ball. But more than half the time, he'd be wide open. And I think most NBA players are going to hit a wide open three.
Unless
we can't let Timothy get 23 points on you and expect you to win when he's a 5-point per game guy. You got to play to other people's averages. You can't let random players beat you, man.
Chris, let me bring up a point for you. Are the Timberwolves really good at defense, or are the Timberwolves just playing high gambling defense? They're going for blocks and steals. The stats might be there, but are they really playing good team defense? That's the question. I think they're good at forcing turnovers. I don't know how good they are at defense in the half court. Sure, you can force a few turnovers here and there, but if you're giving up wide open threes, what's the point of even forcing those turnovers? Like if you're playing defense strictly to force turnovers. but you're still giving up wide open threes. I mean, is the trade-off really there?
We're one of the highest teams with 3-point makes against us. I mean, and it's apparent because guys are out of position.
Because when we're shooting the gaps, playing this high gambling defense where you're always going for the steal. If you don't get that steal, what does that do? That puts every other player on your team at a disadvantage.
Another guy's got to
now.
step up. Yeah.
Exactly. Is it worth it to play that gambling defense? I don't know. And these last few games, it has not been. And I don't know.
I think it's good in some games. You know, I think every team should have a different defensive game plan against them. I think some teams are more turnover prone than others, and those teams should be hounded. And I think that's one of the Timberwolves' strengths. But if you're playing against the Atlanta Hawks, who have shooters all over, Gallinari is another name to mention, who just got every single wide open three he wanted.
He played a nice game.
Yeah, he did have a nice game actually. And when you over rotate on the Hawks, you're gonna leave open a shooter in the corner, and most likely the Hawks are gonna knock that shot down. And that was just the story of that game. We almost gave up an NBA record for 3-pointers in a game.
We gave up their franchise record. It was their franchise. A few other things I want to talk about, Chris. I mean, there's no need to panic. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is just how the NBA season goes. It's a long season. Last year was a shorter season. This is an 82-game season. You're going to have ups and downs. I just wish that we could, maybe lose 2 games and then win 2 games. Just kind of have, instead of being so streaky, just kind of – but the problem is that all the horrible teams in the Western Conference that have been so bad are starting to play great. So now that 10th seed is looking a little harder. I mean, the Rockets, what are they, 7-game win streak now?
The Kings, man, the Kings are creeping up too. It's the Kings, Rockets, and the Pelicans aren't just gonna let you take the 10th seed. You're gonna have to go get it. One of us 14. Let's talk about the Spurs too, man. The Spurs are
coming for us. They're all coming for us, man. And so that's what I'm saying. We can't be having these losing streaks, especially in this month of December, where our schedule is horrible.
Completely off topic, man. But how I would build an NBA team? I'd build it like the Jazz, and I know that's easier said than done. But you only need one star scorer, and then if you have a Bojan Bogdanovic or a Joe Ingles or a Rudy Gobert or a Royce O'Neal, who are super unselfish players who average 10 a game. I mean, Bojan's averaging 18, Ingles averages 15. These guys are amazing off-ball players who are extremely unselfish and look for their shot or pass. And we don't have guys who pass. I don't know. It's just becoming an ever more prevalent issue of just
some big
too many
guys
there. Trying to score.
We talked about this in the beginning of the season, man. There's only one ball. And when you have 3 to 4 guys who are ball-dominant players, you're going to have an issue. And there's been so many problems with that. The Rockets a few years ago with Harden and Westbrook. I mean, there's only one ball, so you can't have guys that need the ball in their hand to score.
I say you pick two at the most and surround those guys with amazing talents, like a Robert Covington, a Joe Ingles, a Kevin Herter.
So you telling me it's time to gut the roster and rebuild, Chris?
No, I'm not. I'm not saying gut the roster. I'm saying we are not at this very point in time, the way we're playing to start the season through almost 25 games, this team is not a competitor in the West. And
all right,
that's
GM
ever
Chris,
more apparent.
What move are you making? You say you get one move to make. Say our GM, I don't know his name off the top of my head. I should. What is it? Sachin? Yeah. Say Sachin gives you one move. He says, all right, Chris, I'm going to hand you the keys to the team for 1 week. You get to make one trade move. What is the one move you're going to make? Or you can pick up a free agent. What's the one move you're going to make? Everyone in the comment section, put what move you're going to make as well.
So this is what I'm going to say about this topic is I think this team does need to be active at the deadline. I think that's apparent that there's obviously pieces that are missing from this roster. There's pieces missing from every roster in the NBA. There's no perfect roster. There's just teams who play extremely well with each other, and aka the Warriors and Suns. I know it's a highly publicized trade rumor. I know everyone talks about it. But I would like to see the Miles Turner move, and there's a couple reasons for it. I think Miles Turner is one of the most underrated players in the NBA. First of all, he's a 4/5. He can play either position. Mostly been playing the 5 in his Pacers career. He can hit the 3 at a high clip, high 30s, potentially low 40s eventually. He's an extremely good mid-range player. He can score the ball from pretty much anywhere inside the mid-range. He's a good post player, good offensive post player. But the thing he's known for obviously is rim protection. I think if you're gonna do defense right in the NBA, you need to have a type of anchor. And I think Miles Turner could be that anchor for this team. I'm not saying Vando can't do it. I'm saying Vando's extremely young and raw and can't do anything else but play defense at the moment and be high energy. But if you have Miles Turner, running the floor, being able to get shots off, crash the boards, grab rebounds, because that's another thing no one talks about. We get out rebounded every single time we play. And I think it's because of our lack of size. Miles Turner is 6'11". I really do think a too big system with Miles Turner and Karl Anthony Towns can work. I don't know what everyone else's thoughts on that is.
How could it work? What about Miles Turner? How is that going to work next to Cat? So they're basically when you're describing Miles Turner as a player, you're saying a guy that can play the 4 or the 5, can shoot the 3, has a mid range. So he seems like Karl Anthony Towns, maybe a little bit nerfed down. Offensively, but with better defense. Is that kind of he's one of the best. Yeah, he's one of the best rim protectors in the league. He's the best shot blocker in the league. He's one of the elite rebounders in this league. So not only the 4 position, but for the 5 position. And so that's something we need. Basically, he's like he's the same player as Karl Anthony Towns. He's just better at the things that Karl Anthony Towns is not great at, and not great at the things that Karl Anthony Towns is great at. So they're the perfect combination, basically.
I can't say if they'd be the perfect combination. I don't know how well they play off each other, but if there's anyone who would be able to do it, I think Miles Turner is definitely a prospect that can do it. And if you don't want to pay the premium for Miles Turner, which right now is looking like the Pacers are obviously going to blow the whole thing up from reports. So I mean, they're going to be looking for picks and young talent. If you're not willing to pay the Malik Beasley and an unprotected first, then I think there's another good option that could present itself either as a starter or a backup, and that's Larry Nance Jr. And I don't think he.
So we're talking about the same. We're talking about all the same guys we talked about last year. We're also going to bring up John Collins as well.
Collins is inked to a long term.
Well, no, Chris, you're the GM right now, so you get to make this move. So are you gonna throw in the kitchen sink for Miles Turner? Are you gonna throw in Beasley, maybe McDaniels, 2 first-round picks? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna trade for Miles Turner?
A realistic trade for Miles Turner, I think, would be a Malik in an unprotected first. And I do think if there's teams in a bidding war, I think you might have to throw Jaden McDaniels in there, and I think the Pacers would be intrigued by that. But like I said,
So you're saying Jaden, Malik, and a first-round pick?
Yeah, I mean on the high end. That's definitely on the high end.
Because I feel like that's almost what we were talking about for a Ben Simmons package.
I mean, the Ben Simmons package right now is just undoable for most teams. But
right.
I would say, if you're scared to throw in the kitchen sink, which at this point in time, who knows if it's time to do that yet. I do think there's major holes in this roster, though. I don't think this is a perfect team by any means. And the people who I'm friends with and who are Wolves fans, I would generally think they think the same exact thing. And if you're not willing to do that, I think there's little pieces that can help you, like a Larry Nance. You trade away, it's probably going to be a Kogi and Layman. Just Nance wants out anyway. But yeah, if you're just wanting to trade away a Kogi, Layman, and a second, Larry Nance is your guy. I mean, he's an athletic rim runner type guy. He's not going to shoot the 3 particularly well, even though he can. I think he's a career like 35, 36, I believe, the last time I checked. But Nance is a highly athletic guy. I think he is kind of like a Vando comp with some shooting. He's on the older side of things. I think he's 30 now. But yeah, it's personally at this stage though, if you're telling me if you're asking me, do I want to blow it up or not? Like, is that your question? Do I want to
Kinda.
blow this core up?
My question was if you were the GM for 48 hours, what move would you make?
I'd make the Miles Turner trade. I don't if it, but that's the other. I don't know how much it's going to cost. If it's Malik and an unprotected first, I'm doing that in a heartbeat. Like no thought. I'm sorry, Malik, but there's no second thought in my mind if he's available.
I feel like the asking price would be a lot higher for him.
And that's the thing. It seems like every team in the NBA wants Miles Turner. So I'm assuming it's going to be a nice price. And we thought Aaron Gordon was going to be a little bit cheaper than he ended up being for the Nuggets. The Nuggets had to pay a. That's the thing, though. I don't think we need a first round pick next year. I don't think that fits our timeline at the moment. I don't want another 19-year-old on this roster. I really don't. I'm kind of sick and tired of us drafting really young raw guys. I want someone proven who's a full player who we know what we're getting out of him. And I think 25-year-old Miles Turner is a guy we know what we're getting out of him. And I know this team will be better with him. I know they will.
There we go. That's some confidence, and maybe we'd sign you as a GM, Chris. I don't know what's different right now. About a week later, after that win streak, when we were saying we didn't want to make any trades, we were fine with the roster. What's different now after this 4-game losing streak? What has changed in your mind?
Shooting and defense, I think I think I was a little oblivious. I was living in that safe haven of us winning 6 games against pretty shitty competition, if we're being completely honest. I think every single one of those teams the Wolves were supposed to beat, and they did, which I'm happy they did. But these past few games, guys, it's you see us giving up wide open layups every single We need some rebounding. We need some perimeter defense. We need some interior defense. And right now, we're not a shooting team. We're not shooting well anyway right now. And I think defense is your best bet at this time. And I don't know. It's tough, man. It's tough being an NBA GM. I can't exactly pinpoint what's wrong with the Timberwolves, but it's pretty easy to see that there's gaps in this roster that will bite us, come later in the year if they don't do something at this deadline. I think they need to make an addition of some sort. I don't know, but I don't know what you think about that. Just any addition of some sort. I don't know if we can.
Yeah, I think
with the same roster on the court.
Chris, we've basically, besides like a Pat Bev and a Prince, we've basically had this same roster for the last 2 years. We've been holding on to guys like a Kogi, Layman. And we haven't really made any big changes. So I'm okay making a small change, but I don't, obviously, like guys like DLO, obviously we got to keep him. Speaking of DLO, how big of an impact does he have? Because we're 0-5 with him not in the game. What do you speak on his impact a little bit?
You know how I feel about him. I think it's essential to have a good point guard in today's NBA. I don't think you can really be a super successful team without a good point guard. And I think that's why the Cleveland Cavaliers are actually pretty good right now. Is I think Darius Garland has taken that next step and is starting to, put up some triple doubles and put up some high scoring games. And, it's especially apparent when your point guards, when Pat Bell was out for the game, the Hawks game I'm talking about, when you have to start Balmero and have McLaughlin, who's horrible. At best a G leaguer coming off the bench. You're not going to win like that, man. Like I like the future for Balmero. I like it. I don't love it. He might be rawer than Jaden McDaniels, man. That's not what we kind of thought Balmero was going to be coming in. We kind of thought he was going to be at least somewhat polished because of his overseas experience. And I'm not giving up on Balmero by any means, but it's apparent he's not ready to, lead an offense, even a second team offense at this point in time. I'm okay with him learning as a third string point guard. It's very important that Patrick Beverley and D'Angelo Russell are on the court. It's everything. I mean, the offense, as you can see, doesn't run smooth, without D'Angelo Russell. It hasn't been running smooth though with D'Angelo Russell. I don't know. That can be questioned too.
The only thing I'm curious about, and if I was a GM, what would this team look like if we just had a true point guard? I'm not saying like as true of a point guard as Ricky Rubio, But I'm saying a point guard that really can facilitate, really can run an offense. I'm not saying a D'Angelo Russell guy who's a high volume shooting point guard, but like just a true point guard. Would we be better with a point guard like that instead of a point guard like D'Angelo Russell? Because that would kind of get rid of the problem of having too many guys that need the ball. And I'm not, obviously this is unrealistic, but a point guard like Chris Paul, like that, he doesn't need to score to impact the game. He really is running the offense and finding other players. I feel like that might look way different for our team.
I think you saw it last game in the first half with Patrick Beverley. I really do. I think a point guard like Patrick Beverley, who's a very plus defender, who's a plus passer as well. I don't think Patrick Beverley gets enough credit for that, and who can score when needed to, a high efficient scorer when needed to score, who doesn't need to do it at a 25 per game clip. I think Lonzo Ball. I was really high on Lonzo
like
Ball
that
this summer, man. I think if you put Lonzo Ball at the point guard position right now instead of D'Angelo Russell, I think this team is kind of like a Chicago Bulls record, and that's 14-7. And I'm really high on Lonzo Ball, man. I like the Bulls too. I'm not just a Wolves fan. I like the Bulls too, and I can see them running through the East because of Lonzo Ball. And it sounds stupid, they have Levine, DeRozan, and Vucevic, but if you look at Lonzo Ball, he's shooting like 42% from the 3-point line. He's one of the most talented passers in the league and can really run an offense. And
would you rather have Lonzo Ball over LaMelo Ball?
I'd probably bet on.
I think they're pretty comparable.
I'd bet on LaMelo's, but I'm betting on LaMelo's potential. But if I was trying to win a chip this year, I'd probably have Lonzo. I don't know, man. Lonzo's really good. We said this last year. I mean, I don't know how people underrate Lonzo. I think the Pelicans shipping him off is pretty dumb, or just they used him. Van Gundy used him wrong. But like I said, a Lonzo Ball type player, a Darius Garland type player. Even though Garland's pretty elite now, in my opinion. It's tough, man. DLO is one of those players, man. You love him when he's on, you hate him when he sucks. So I mean, it's tough. I don't know.
It is tough, man. Well, I think we got a few viewers in the chat. I think we should open up the comment section here. We're not going to be able to read all the comments up, so if you guys want to drop some new comments right now, we'll answer those, and then we'll let you guys go on with your night and maybe watch the Vikings get a dub.
Watch the Vikes, yeah.
But the real game you should be watching is Iowa State, Iowa. Undefeated Iowa State Cyclones going up against Iowa. One of the biggest games of the year, I would say. So we'll wait for these comments to come on. Chris, we got the Cavs Friday. Is that a win or no? One-word answer.
Is D'Lo back or not?
Yeah, that's more than one word.
All right, no.
I'm
going to go with a no.
I think that's going to be one of the games where the Wolves will win, just like uncharacteristically win. They'll probably beat the Cavs and the Blazers, go on a little 2-game win streak. Just surprise everyone, and then
Ricky Rubio revenge game.
That's true though. You got to find those hidden narratives. Yeah, dude, I've been pretty spacey this whole podcast, so I'm going to be honest with you. I had the
seems like you've been high, man.
I got the flu. Fever. I mean, that whole first debacle there with the are we live or are we not? That was pretty embarrassing. Looks like no one's commenting in the comment section. So,
hey man, that's all right. We can go on with the night.
I think so, man. Hey, I think this is a good episode. When are we live streaming next?
Let's see. Maybe potentially this weekend at some point.
Well, we got Sunday game versus the Blazers. Maybe we do that Sunday night game.
Could do that. No, I can't do Sunday night. That's the Bears-Packers game.
Oh my gosh! What about next Wednesday versus the Nuggets?
Next Wednesday versus the Nuggets. Let me check the calendar. 16th. We should be able to do next Wednesday.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you then, buddy.
All right. We'll see you guys.
All right. See ya.